I got one for you. You should go to war to preserve your way of life. Well, Chuck, this is your way of life. And if your spy satellites don't see nothing, if there ain't no war, then you can go home and prematurely take up golf, my friend. Because there ain't no war but ours.
What happens when all of America's enemies are defeated, but the U.S. security state needs to keep existing? Both Bob Roberts and this week's movie, Wag the Dog, explore the more satirical side of the so-called peace dividend.
Do you think it'll be necessary to use force?
Well, we must be strong and resolute whenever democracy is threatened, ma'am. And we want to avoid violence by any means, but I'm afraid it might be necessary to say as a madman.
In 1991, Colin Powell, being interviewed in the wake of the Gulf War, said, "I'm running out of demons, I'm running out of villains. I'm down to Fidel Castro and Kim Il-sung."
The first night of the war, everybody was, in heaven. They saw these strikes go in very successfully. Casualties were almost nil. Television pictures of bombs going down chimney stacks and all that sort of stuff. And some of the reporters were running around saying, "This is going to be over right away." And I had to call down to the Pentagon press office and tell them to shut those guys up.
The fear in the defense and weapons industries was that the end of the Cold War and a possible global peace meant that their capabilities would have to be pared down.
The spy satellites show it, Mr. Breen. They show no war.
Then what good are they if they show no war? I mean, what are we spending $250 billion a year in the Defense Department? What good are they if they show nothing?
In 1993, Larry Beinhart wrote a novel called American Hero, which was a satirical work that speculated that George H.W. Bush had worked with a Hollywood agent and a dying Lee Atwater to secure re-election by staging Operation Desert Storm.
Hitler revisited. America will not stand aside. The world will not allow the strong to swallow up the weak.
This was the more cynical side of Francis Fukuyama's famous end of history theory. The defeat of the USSR would herald in a new, brighter era where liberal democracies would spring up everywhere and existential conflict between superpowers would die down. This absolutely has not occurred, with China now taking on the role that the USSR used to play as a second contrasting superpower. Neoconservatives and defense industry employees obviously did not want the end of history to occur for another reason.
I liked it. I liked it very much. Others, Colin Powell says, that'll teach us to leave you up at Camp David alone with him.
Peace is boring, and politics must be matched with spectacle. The Gulf War, although short-lived and incredibly destructive, was a boon for Republican politicians and the media, especially CNN, which was able to treat Operation Desert Storm as the first war broadcast as 24-hour news coverage.
The Gulf War, smart bomb falling down a chimney, 2,500 missions a day, 100 days. One video of one bomb, Mr. Morse. The American people bought that war. War is show business.
In 1997, David Mamet was hired to retool a screenplay by Hillary Hinkin, who had tried to turn American Hero into a film adaptation. David Mamet was hired by Barry Levinson, who had wanted to work with him for a long time, but hadn't found a project worthy of their collaboration. Levinson did not like Hillary Hinkin's original screenplay and felt like faking an entire war was too ambitious for a project he wanted to shoot and direct in just 5 weeks. Another major change in the country's cultural zeitgeist was that the Clintons had taken power.
Tens of millions of dollars have been spent. And there have been, by the way, 2 federal reports by independent agencies saying that what I said and what my wife said in the very beginning of this was true, that we were not involved in running the savings and loan, that we lost money on a real estate deal, and that this whole inquiry is going after 2 people who lost money on a real estate deal made almost 19 years ago now.
There was already an understanding that Bill Clinton would use the international stage to distract from the constant scandals plaguing his White House. Robert De Niro, who also produced the movie, starred as Conrad Breen, a spin doctor who worked as a fixer for the president.
What difference does it make if it's true? It's a story and it breaks. They're going to have to run with it. How long we got till it breaks?
Front page, Washington Post tomorrow.
Oh, well, yeah, no, that's not good.
The character De Niro plays underscores the very loose relationship between criminality and politics as usual.
Playing with your life now.
Oh, fuck my life. Fuck my life. I want the credit. The credit.
Dustin Hoffman plays a film producer called Stanley Motz, who is based on Robert Evans and obsessed with spectacle. De Niro and Hoffman work with a presidential aide, played by Anne Hecht, to manufacture a war in Albania to distract from the president's sex scandal with an underage girl.
You want me to produce your war? Not a war. It's a pageant. We need a theme, a song, some visuals. We need, it's a pageant.
Just 2 months after Wag the Dog came out, the Monica Lewinsky scandal broke.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
Bill Clinton's quick response to that scandal was to bomb the Al-Shifa pharmaceutical factory in Sudan, which the Clinton administration claimed was an Al-Qaeda nerve gas storage facility.
This is the plant that's producing most of the pharmaceuticals and veterinary medicines for a poor African country that's under embargo, can't replace them. What's that going to do?
The Clinton administration also drew comparisons to Wag the Dog 2 more times, bombing Iraq during the impeachment trial in Kosovo, right next to Albania the next year.
We just found out they have the bomb. We just found out they have the bomb.
That's good.
And no, wait a second. Wait a second. Wait.
Anyway, before I introduce the panel, let me say, please like this video and subscribe to the Movie Night Extravaganza YouTube channel. Also, we are now monetized, so if you have any pressing questions during this live show, send us a super chat. We are absolutely obligated by international law, human rights law, to answer it. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Movie Night Extra. All of our after parties are available on there forever. Okay, let me introduce the panel. Jay Underworld, illustrator, book cover artist, comic designer, and artist for Give Them an Argument, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza and Bad Takes. Conan Neutron, host of Protonic Reversal and the frontman for Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. They just got back from touring on the East Coast. J.G. Michael, host of Parallax Views. I, of course, am your long-suffering host, Forrest Miller. Without further ado, let's get started.
Huh.
Still here, still suffering.
That's it.
No
and
of
Christina,
course, Christina's here.
I was going to say she doesn't get an intro. Apparently,
she doesn't
the
get
black
an
hair.
intro.
We didn't know who she was.
She told us 10 minutes before we went on. I'm not doing the intros live. I'm not sitting here with my microphone doing the same thing every week. I didn't know. Christina Oak, she's also here. Cosmopolitics, that's her Twitch channel, her Twitter, her Instagram, her war, apparently.
It's her brand identity. Yeah. My war. Your war.
My satellite doesn't show any war, but it does show Cosmopolitics.
Exactly.
Twitch.tv/Cosmopolitics.
Exactly. I kind of miss I like the produced intros. I do kind of miss the live reads once in a while, mostly because I like interjecting with them, I guess. But that's me. That's
yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I really,
it's pro.
I hate reading. I hate reading on camera, and I'm in a basement where like talking for that amount of time is taxing a little bit.
You need a teleprompter.
You better be on a podcast. Wag the Dog. This is one of the ones I would say this and Bob Roberts were one of the ones I was most excited to talk about this month. This is for me very funny. Like very funny. This is a very funny movie, but this is exactly my sense of humor, like just like pitch black. Like this is ostensibly a comedy, but it's like, oh, it's funny because it's true, kind of like that sort of way.
Yeah, but,
you
but kind
find
of not exactly true when they wrote it, which is crazy, right? Like you
A
have
little
to think
too on
that
the
the Clinton
nose.
administration was like watching it and going, "Huh, maybe we should kind of start bombing."
Yeah, that's a good
kids whenever-"
idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That
I
woman's
did
it.
not know the sex scandal with Clinton happened after this movie came out.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
See, I didn't
2
know
months
that.
after. Yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't see
You
it.
on the nose.
I didn't see it when it came out. I saw it a couple years. I saw it a couple years later, and yeah, it's kind of amazing that like in that sort of weird art reality imitating art thing that that actually happened like after this movie came out, which is 100% wild and makes it more awesome in my mind. Frankly.
Yeah, so this is them reacting to it. They were asked about it on a making of. They were doing like a making of documentary and interviewing the people. And the producers and stuff reacted to finding out that like the scandal had broken exactly the same way kind of as the actual movie took place.
Visit to China. Another sort of news, however, has emerged from the presidential quarter. We turn to Melissa Gardner at KZAB in Santa Fe with this breaking news. Melissa?
Thanks, Richard. Today, a local Firefly girl accused the president of sexual misconduct. This photo of the president with the girls was taken during their recent tour of the White House. The girl claims that the sexual misconduct occurred inside the Oval Office. Her attorney says there are no plans yet to hold a press conference. Right now, folks in Santa Fe and the rest of America are waiting for a response from the White House on these harsh allegations.
I mean, first of all, I don't think it has anything to do with, Clinton, and then we weren't chasing any specific thing about, the Clinton administration. In fact, that's why I never really show a president, period, because you don't want to put a face to a president. It's really the presidency as opposed to a specific president. And I do think it is more the media in terms of how much manipulation is taking place on a day-to-day basis. And to the point that we no longer are quite sure where reality is and those things which are fabricated. And it gets to be, I think, more sinister as time goes along, because you'll be able to do even more things, as we allude to in the movie, by digitally putting someone in another environment, so that if seeing is no longer believing, then where are we? And then we're really left to our own sense of morality, and how far does that play out?
We thought a year ago, when we finished Wag the Dog, that we had made a real good political satire. Today, it doesn't feel like satire. The events that have happened in this country, certainly in the past 4 months, are far more outrageous than anything we could come up with. As a matter of fact, if we had come up with some of these events, if we'd come up with a Linda Tripp and a Lucianne Goldberg, people would have said, write this out. This is too ridiculous. Please. I mean, so there's no more satire. And as a matter of fact, today I was having a conversation with somebody, and we were talking about Network. And I don't know when it's the last time you watched Network, but Network has come true. By the time you see Faye Dunaway sitting down with this Black activist talking about how she should do a talk show program with some white conservative, come on, this is CNBC every night of the week. Network has completely come true. Howard Beale screaming to everybody, saying, I can't take this anymore, and talking about how, what have you become? It's carnivals and jokesters and whatever else. And he goes on and said, this is what television's become. Jerry Springer, give me a break.
How much is that affecting us and confusing us is, I guess, issues that we'll just sort of debate. But it's a hard thing when once upon a time things were real and some things weren't real. And now we begin to blur those lines, between fact and fiction. Once the lines between fact and fiction blur, then we begin to become much more skeptical and much more cynical.
It's almost quaint to see them like, whoa, this is totally outrageous. You wouldn't even believe it this far into the future, when we've had like Trump and we've had, Biden's like brain dripping out of his eye on fucking TV.
They only knew what we knew.
Different problems, to be sure. Can I just say, I do remember last time I saw Network. It was when I rewatched one of my favorite movies for this show with J.G. Michael. Is the last time that I saw.
Yeah, that's why I said a few months ago.
That was private chat, though. That's for the public. Some things are worth mentioning. Go watch the Network episode. It's a good one. We got into a lot of arguments. I remember that. But
which it didn't happen because I wasn't on it.
Right, exactly. Using neutron logic. Look, they had very different problems in the late 90s, and it's almost adorable now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like what the problems were.
History's over, is it?
You got no idea, friend. You got no freaking clue. But I mean,
I think it was JG that reposted this that made me think about it. Like a few weeks ago, I think JG reposted Fukuyama put out again. He was like, "Is the end of history here finally?" And
yeah,
that time. It's been forever.
So when out of curiosity, when did you guys first see this movie? Because I did not see it when it first came out. I actually saw it when the Iraq War broke out.
Yeah, same.
It felt very apropos when the Iraq War came out.
Yeah, I that's exactly when I saw it, and at the time it seemed like all the more because ostensibly like it was in response to the first Iraq War for Poppy Bush's war, like that's like where the ideas from it came anyway, and yeah, like it was like hauntingly kind of like all the more hilarious, to be sure, but like also. It kind of hit right on the nose, to a certain degree.
I saw it for the first time today because when it came out, I was just like hard pass. I'm not interested in it. And then I'm kind of glad I didn't see it until now because like, man, I would have been insufferable in the aughts after if I saw this.
I think I saw it like the beginning of it a long time ago. I think my dad rented it, but this is like a few days ago was the first time I watched the entire thing. I remember the first few scenes though, and I feel like in the wake of Iraq happening and stuff, my dad probably rented it.
There was a section in my local video store that had like a dark comedy section, right? Which is sort of like, this is my vibes here, and there's a lot of ones that like maybe haven't aged as well or whatever, but this was in the dark comedy section. I'm like, it's about like election stuff and it's like a dark comedy, cool, I'm into it. And then I was like, oh wait, this is like a really like hilarious but accurate portrayal of the art of distraction. Cool, right on.
Christina, did you watch it for
I saw it in high school for the first time. Again, it's another film that my government teacher recommended, and I was like, the timing.
Her on.
I know, right? She's great. I'm wondering. I'm thinking to myself, watching the film and then rewatch it, like, man, a lot has happened in these like like 25 years. Eesh.
Yeah, I mean, Clinton was still president. Like literally, like the big scandal that everyone remembers, like it just freaking hadn't even happened yet, right? So that's how long ago this was. I mean, for me, because I'm a bit older than Christina and Forrest, I was in high school, right? So, I mean, it's crazy. That was a long time ago.
I have to wonder, like David Mamet though, like did he know something? Something was like because his politics have always been pretty conservative, and he seems like he's
they haven't been actually.
Really?
That's not true. That's not true.
Yeah, he started out very liberal, and then I guess in recent years he's become more conservative. He even wrote like a whole book about his politics changing recently. I forget the name of it.
Yeah, it was the
Why it was Now by David Mamet.
It was the Iraq War, and what's interesting, and I didn't send it over because I don't think it's actually on YouTube, but in the DVD extra for Wag the Dog, William H. Macy, who plays the CIA agent in this, talks about how at the school he went to, David Mamet was a teaching fellow, so he actually like went to classes by David Mamet, how he's basically like one of the most like brilliant and funny guys. And incredibly inscrutable in his politics, but incredibly thoughtful about it as well. And then proceeds to rattle on some specifics that are like, oh yeah, he doesn't feel that way anymore because he had like a neocon turn in the like late 2000s. I kind of like when like a bunch of people's brains got broken by.
Imagine being a neocon.
Right, I know. Well, and it's not straight neocon, but it's enough where it's like, all right, dude. But the thing is, he was known for just being like. Kind of like not easy to pin down, but basically coming from a critical thinking liberal place, which is hilarious.
A bit
From
like
the
a
fall for the
Hitchens
neocon
kind
thing.
of neocon,
Hitchens
right?
style.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that was the next sentence I was going to say, but it's a big panel, so I'll let
So I found the name of his book where he talks about his whole political transformation from liberal to conservative. And this may be the most ridiculously bad title I've ever seen. The Secret Knowledge on the Dismantling of American Culture. That feels like something Jordan Peterson would write.
Well, and David Mamet goes on to Dave Rubin all the time. Like that's
if
you look
God.
up because
he's fallen. Yeah. We don't speak about
Rubin of every Dave Rubin.
Well, because they both did the why I left the left thing. I guess. I mean, I didn't know that he
didn't. But that isn't how he ascribed to it. Like he just sort of started doing like his think pieces and his take on things. Like not to like defend the guy, but like it was a different sort of like lame heel turn than most of the heel turns that we expect now, which is the Tulsi Gabbard. Like, oh yeah, of course she's doing that. Of course she is. Who couldn't have predicted that? Yeah, that was
your contributor at Fox News, Tulsi Gabbard.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's like, and she knows it's like that was like in the SARS very early on. But I think it sucks because like David Mamet was known for basically being an advocate of critical thinking and stuff. For him to fall for that into that neocon thing, which you see was it Skullcroft. Like, how excited does that dude sound in that clip? Like, that dude sounds so pumped about, like, I was like, well, I guess if you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life, right?
I'm just really depressed to hear.
He loves war, that bro.
These are the titles for some of the Dave Rubin ones that he's done. What everyone's afraid to say out loud. Pulling no punches. What to expect from politicians. Then there's another one that's like Hollywood legend exposes why Hollywood is dying. So it's that very like why I left the left style.
Hollywood is not. Hollywood's not.
I just have to say, I'm very depressed to hear that David Mamet has collaborated with Dave Rubin because you know what? As horrible as David Mamet's politics are, at least he has like an ounce of talent. Dave Rubin,
more than an ounce.
That's depressing.
Like watch Glenn Ross, right, and be like. Tell me that like this dude is not a talented guy, but he's the same,
incredibly talented.
And it's the same sort of thing as what Frank Miller, right? Like Frank Miller took a hard right turn as well. He's another one of those guys. But like this shouldn't be about like David Mamet not agreeing with our politics. Should be the fact that like I think he punched up this script considerably to be like a much more interesting film than the actual book, which is not uninteresting. But as a film, this works better because Mamet's he's got a good head for dialogue, Aaron Sorkin could never.
Do you know Aaron Sorkin did a rewrite for Bulworth?
I wish I could unknow that.
That's really depressing.
I think that's when they added the N-word into it.
Yes, I was gonna say, did he write the raps? Because I would love to pin that on him. But I think it's notable that because at the time like Mamet was considered like incredibly edgy, like beyond the edge, like it's David Mamet, he's wild card, right? And now
edgy.
Right.
It's so edgy that his movie was called The Edge.
The Edge. Yes, exactly. That's good.
He's edging.
But
we're edging right now.
He had a deep love and sort of disdain as well of politics, which shows in the script, right? Like it absolutely shows in the script. Like there's like an affinity and then an embrace of the absurd and then like a celebration of the absurd, and then he brings it right back to like the darkness at the end. And I think it's a fine balance beam to walk. But for me, it does it really well. And again, so I mean, I guess for folks, I don't know why anyone would be watching this if they haven't seen the movie. But this is about like manufactured media to distract from like real scandal, right? And in this case,
that's never happened in our history.
Never has happened in the history. Certainly not like every week now. But like, at the time, it was considered like all the more absurd. Because
and certainly not 3 weeks after this movie came out.
Yes, but but it is a thing that I mean they. Like it's not meant to be a how-to guide, but that's kind of like how it was for a little bit, right?
It's like every political satire is literally like a how-to guide when it comes to whatever the context of the film is about.
Dr. Strangelove right now, as Poland just got hit by a missile.
Yeah.
And it's
Yo,
like,
speaking of the Ukraine's, like what's happening with Poland, someone did an Aemon Targaryen meme like right after he like with his dragon on the last episode. I'm like, yeah, that's the face of the Russian dude who pushed the button on that missile to hit Poland.
I don't know.
Like, oh,
I mean, I assume it's a Game of Thrones, the House of Dragon thing, but I don't,
He's like,
I'm lost.
Not only is the audience lost, half the panelists, but I got it. I got it, Christine. I got you.
That's why I did the joke for you, Conan.
So I've been, sitting on this, really wanting to play it, and I've made it 25 minutes without playing it. This is Bobby Wynant interviewing Robert De Niro, talking about Wag the Dog. The most awkward, I think, of any fucking interview we have of her.
Oh boy,
this is.
I want her.
This
Does
is
she
the
have
worst.
a theme song on any of these shows? Because
No, you gotta do it. You got Bobby's Corner or something like that.
Job.
I know. I'll make one. I'll make one for her. I'll do it. I don't care.
This is the most awkward single interview I've seen her do, including the ones where she gets horny. This takes the cake. I love it.
Inject it into my veins.
Hey, De Niro's face right there looks awkward.
I know, it's
That's
just
just the beginning of it.
Amazing.
You can tell.
He's like, I wish you weren't talking to me.
Doesn't. I think word of mouth, Robert, will be very good on this picture because it's so funny,
Great.
satirical, cynical, and at the same time, I find it a little bit scary.
Mm.
Do you?
Oh, yeah, it's satire.
Like
I
it
mean-
could happen and maybe is happening or will happen, huh?
Well, what happened, and it happens in certain countries, definitely, because they have no, in a totalitarian or regime or dictatorship like Iraq, I mean, the whole thing with how they interpreted the UN inspectors going back as a victory for them is just an example of that in a sense.
Working with Dustin, you all had done a little thing in Sleepers, but you never really had a continuing
No.
amount of working together. And I just enjoyed so much the scene in the TV control room where he's doing the calico cat. You gotta have a calico cat.
Right.
I thought that is 100% a Dustin, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that was good. There was a lot of nice stuff, fun stuff to do.
Would you have time for laughs on the shooting schedule that you were on?
Oh yeah. It was okay. I mean, there's always downtime on a movie. You're always waiting, even though you're waiting between setups and so on. But Bob Richardson's very fast. But we did have, and that's better because I mean you had just enough time to wait where you were shooting again. So the worst thing is to wait around a lot longer. And when the movies with the special effects and stunts, that tends to happen. That doesn't tend to. It happens all the time. It's really tough.
Robert, I love to collect movie lines, just lines out of context.
Yeah.
And try them out on people, say, who said that, And your line, or what comes to mind for me always is, you talking to me?
Right.
From Taxi Driver. Do people still throw that back at you?
Once in a while, yeah.
Is that your most famous movie line, do you think?
It's one of them, I think, yeah.
What would be another one?
I don't know. There's a couple I forget, but there were a few others.
You mean once you do the film, it's over, huh?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I mean, some of the movies I've done I haven't seen for a long, long time, and I like to watch them because it's like a new experience. You can get that much distance from it.
And you sometimes see something and think, oh my gosh, I forgot I did that.
Yeah, that happens too. Yeah.
What will you remember most from this one?
Oh, God.
Speaking of things I don't want to do.
There's a few moments. Yeah, the ending is kind of interesting when Dustin is going away, and you see me up there, and there's a lot of like interesting stuff. I can't think offhand, so I mean I'm I could come up with a snappy.
That's all right.
Thing, but yeah.
Painful.
Cheers to that. That's
I will say,
wow, what an all-timer.
Bobby is 95 years old.
Yep.
Come on, movie night traffic.
Let's go.
Yeah, no, she is a friend of the show.
Welcome on any episode, Gabriel. Like,
Yes.
I'm not even kidding. This is not a bit 100% sincere. That's
I think that's the best Bobby interview that I've watched. I think it's perfectly curated for her.
Well, and she's trying to like do a thing with him, but he is just not in clearly not in the mood for it at all. But she's just like, nope, we're going down. We're doing this. We're going. And like when she starts to like have him think of another line that people want to like have him shout, and he's just like, oh god, you wagging my dog? You wagging my dog over here?
You wagging my dog? I say my dog wagging. I see my dog wagging. You wagging my dog?
Well, and it's important because this was considered a more like kind of niche picture when it came out, right? This wasn't like a big like what's it a tentpole movie?
Yeah, it was like during like the spring, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, which is crazy because it's Barry Levinson. Barry Levinson's done a bunch of like larger films, but it's a niche topic at the time. The idea of like, oh, I don't want to see a movie about politics stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I was much more into watching Dark City and Mimic whenever this came out.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, like it's I get where. I mean, can we just say that I think De Niro and Hoffman like do such a great job in this. Like,
Legends.
R.I.P. Dan Heche.
Yeah, exactly. Who's also awesome, but like those two as like the duo and they're kind of like riffing and stuff like that and doing that great mammoth dialogue back and forth. It's just, I mean, it's
Legends.
So I guess it was officially released December 25th, 1997, like in theaters or whatever.
Okay.
And then January 15th
is when the
1998 is.
Yeah,
when
because
the
that would have been like just in
scandal
time
broke.
for Oscars. They dump a lot of those kind of movies like right around Christmas.
Yeah,
exactly. The Oscar dump.
So it was about 3 months, I think, in between, or 3 weeks. I mean, in between the two, like one to the other. And there's an interview with Anne Hecht where she's talking to Bobby. Actually, I actually pulled it.
Anne Hecht.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's an interview with Anne Hecht where she
whatever your name is. Here's an interview with you.
And she says that she was at the White House and told Clinton, told Clinton to watch it.
He's great, by the way. And also, by the way, so speaking of Oscars, this was the Titanic year. To place in history. So it did get a Dustin Hoffman got a Best Leading Actor nomination. But that's when they decided to give it to Jack Nicholson for As Good as It Gets, which not his best role, but whatever. They wanted to give us something to Jack.
I hate that movie.
Yeah, it's not great. But it also got a Best Screenplay nomination for Mamet and Hankin, which it lost to L.A. Confidential.
Which Barry Levinson made a big deal about, like not wanting Hillary Hinkin to get the Oscar with David Mamet,
and the union got involved, right? If I remember correctly. Yeah, which and like. That's very interesting, but like it's also like, I can see both sides of that.
He came up with the main characters. He came up with like the storyline. Her thing was more of a straight adaptation.
It's not that close. It's and then it's honestly like it's practically a different movie, but like it is a different movie. It's practically a different story. But I also get like, look by the ancient laws of Hollywood, you must get a credit. Like I get that as well. But anyway. Yeah, lost to As Good as It Gets, which really, if for Best Leading Actor for Hoffman, and then lost L.A. Confidential for Best Screenplay, which that's a great screenplay, so that's okay.
Yeah, this is almost, I mean, because it's Mamet, it's almost like a play screenplay, right? Like a lot of the action is kind of condensed into different locations. Like it feels like you could do this as a play in a theater or something and have it work, even though you need like the White House background and stuff like that at some point or something, but like it still feels like the action is contained enough. It's not one of those like even when the plane goes down and they're just kind of talking outside of the down plane, it still feels like you're in a contained space and like you it almost feels like there's a set behind them.
Well, I mean, I think all of his best stuff has that feel to it. I mean, Glengarry is literally adapted from the stage play. It just happens to be like the definitive version of it, and like honestly one of the best Jack Lemmon roles I feel like in an entire storied career among many other things, but it's basically the play except for the fact that there's a few different locations. So
Glenn Greenwald.
exactly.
Yeah.
Did you,
so-
Michael? How do you, what do you think about this film? I haven't heard much out of you on characters.
Oh, I enjoyed it a lot. For some reason, whenever I think of this movie, the funniest part to me, and I don't know why I find it so hilarious, but I love Kirsten Dunst's cameo in it.
Of course, as the Albanian refugee.
Right. And then,
yeah,
she's like, "Can I put this on my resume?" And De Niro's like, "Well, then we'd have to kill you."
Yeah, you really can't.
For some reason,
Well-
that's the part that always sticks out. I love this movie, though. I think it's a very funny and sharp satire. Yeah, I think it's a good movie to watch on a double feature, actually, with do you guys remember the British show The Thick of It?
Oh, of course. Yes.
This is a good one to watch with In the Loop, the movie version of In the Thick of It. Yeah.
The only reason In the Loop didn't really make the list is like it's not really about elections. It's more just about sort of like what it's like to be like.
You guys got to do In the Loop at some point, though. I will say
But
that.
it
Wag
has
the Dog is
Sledgehammer.
great.
Sledgehammer's in it, and that makes it a much better film.
And James Gandolfini in a Leaning Against Type.
role.
Yeah, non-soprano role. Playing against that, meaning not Tony Soprano. Yes, which he did a couple times. He did in the Coen Brothers.
Yeah, he did that, and he did the worst rom-com I've ever seen when it's him and Elaine from Seinfeld.
Right.
Julia Dreyfus or whatever, Louis Dreyfus. Yeah, they had that rom-com where I was like,
Get Shorty I thought was nice because he played like this really nice guy who was just like hired muscle, and he's like listen, I don't want to fight you.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he had that beard, so it didn't even look like him.
Yeah.
He's also in True Romance, but he's basically playing
he's
Tony Soprano.
Soprano.
So that's not playing against type.
No.
At all. Yeah.
No, but I would say Get Shorty like really shows you the range that Gandolfini had.
A great thing about this movie, Wag the Dog, that I think is they the whole they bring Willie Nelson. We haven't mentioned that Willie Nelson is like the song fixer in this, like the agitprop like anthem maker.
I love,
which is
I always forget. It feels like everyone's in this movie.
Everybody is.
Like Craig T. Nelson shows up, William Macy. I think
Jack Black.
Belushi shows up, right? I mean,
Jack Black isn't. Jack Black was in Bob
Roberts, which I'm still waiting to do my final thoughts on. Thank you very much. But like he does the collab, and they're like, well, and they basically like they talk about the tie a yellow ribbon around the old blah blah blah, like that. We need like a thing for that, but we need it to be about this fake war, and so they come up with like. The good old shoe, right? Old shoe, J. Andrew Old Shoe world over there. Like, and it's so amazing because like they kind of put it together. It's just him and the blues fella, and they come up with this thing, and then they artificially age it, put a copy in the Library of Congress for someone to find, so they can make an anthem for this soldier whose nickname is Old Shoe, and then and manufacture basically like this like grassroots like soldier celebration campaign. Go to all this effort, and then it turns out that like, oh yeah, the guy's like, he's in the military, all right, but he's in a military prison for like all these.
Well, they confuse special plans with special prisons or whatever.
Yeah, well, they didn't. Yeah, exactly, because they wanted someone that like they could get, so they could put him in front of the cameras, but not have like a public alibi. That would be like they wouldn't do it, and then it's like this Woody Harrelson again, also playing against type, except for National Born Killers, basically being the worst dude in the world, like this horrible, like horrendous, like psychopathic, like implied rapist, like violent dude that like is like nothing like an American hero at all, and I think that's a great. Some people have bitched about that in the third act. I think that's great. And I love the like, oh no, everything's fine, and there's like another shot, and like, oh no, scratch that.
Well, I would say that it's a lot in the third. I would say that it's a lot in the third act. I wouldn't say that it's bad in the third act. Like,
some people were bitching about it.
You get a lot of like information and adventure in a very short amount of time. But I don't think that like the scene where they're all sitting after he gets killed and they're like, we killed Old Shoe. Like that scene's fucking hilarious. That scene is perfectly comically timed and everything, right? Like the action is just taking place and they're just kind of like, it's almost like that next day feeling when you're like hungover or something. And you're like, well, what the fuck do we do now? And it's like, well, I guess
did I wear a traffic cone last night? What happened? Yeah. But like it's crazy because like, but it would make sense because there's so many like moving parts of this, and there's so many, even though they have so many people involved. Like the idea that like all of it would go flawlessly, no, come on. Like there's too many risks that they have to take by necessity to keep the narrative going or whatever. So to have that be the thing where it's like, oh yeah, this guy's not who you think he is at all. Like we can't put him in front of like any like this might be a risk to the the passengers that and a risk to the people in the audience if we like do anything with this guy. And then it sort of resolves itself, so to speak. But yeah, anyway. Yeah, I totally forgot Kirsten Dunst was even in this, and she's got like such a key role as like the Albanian refugee. And then like they CGI and they want just the right pet, and like there's the whole thing of like no, it's got to be a calico cat. And then they like go through and they say, oh, he wants a white kitten. He wants a white kitten, and then the president wants a calico cat. Sorry.
Fun fact about calico cats: they're always female.
Oh, I did not know that.
Same thing
That
with
horny
tortoise.
motherfucker. That horny Dustin Hoffman.
And actually, to be honest though, there
The
are
horny
male
president.
calicos, but they are very, very rare, and they cost a lot of money if you ever find one. Or if you have a litter and you happen to have a boy calico, sell that thing. You're going to be rich.
But
But
there's
you
also a
can't
time
breed.
period where it's very early CGI, where they're kind of like whenever they have CGI in a movie back then, it's like, oh, you can do anything you want with CGI, and they have like a very clumsy process of like putting that together. And I've always kind of loved watching that in movies because they've
It's
definitely
like Running
streamlined
Man.
it. Yeah.
I mean,
They-
like if you remember, Running Man had like the same thing where they made up the scene where Jesse Ventura kills Arnold Schwarzenegger. Nobody knows what I'm talking about, but
I've seen it, but it's been a long time. But I don't remember that scene specifically, Andy. I'm sorry.
yeah, it's it was very much giving me Running Man vibes. That's all I'm
Okay,
saying.
it's of the time CGI. I mean, like this is like because remember, like Terminator 2 said it kind of changed everything for CGI. People understood like what you could do with CGI finally. And Jurassic Park as well, which is a mix of practical effects and CGI, which is one of the reasons why that movie works. And most of the sequels, I'm just gonna say all the sequels kind of blow, or really blow, personally.
Yeah.
I was gonna say with Wag the Dog, I know we talked a lot about David Mamet, but Dennis Leary, when he's talked about this movie, because he's in it too. Just everyone's in this movie.
Yeah, like, literally everybody from the 90s is
Yeah.
It was
Leary claims that that they would shoot from the script, but a lot of it they would do a lot of improv on this movie.
Riff and improv a little.
Yeah, and I was curious, did you guys get that impression too, that it was very improv in a lot of places?
I definitely feel like there's some quips that are just a little bit too like pop, pop, where it's like, all right, that probably was not in the script, but like they're awesome, and they're like little. And Leary, I think, is obviously like as an actual stand-up comedian, especially then, like sort of like the height of his power is like probably like I would say it's fair bet that most of his best lines were probably not written. But then you never know. Damn it!
Really on point throughout this. So
the Willie Nelson thing where he's just jamming on the guitar,
Yeah.
and he's singing like down to the Canadian border, and he gets really fucking dirty with it. I feel like that's probably improv. Like I don't see anybody writing that and being like, Willie Nelson, can you please sing about like giving a woman head and make it sound like you're defending the Canadian? He's like, I will ride to the Canadian border.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I think you just to a certain degree, like if you have a fantastic script, great cast, and like great direction, that's cool. But if you have talented people that can work in an improvisational manner, you let them do it too.
I feel like it's all of the scenes where they're in the room and they're like throwing out ideas feel very improv. Like specifically, like I don't think necessarily like the scenes where they're going back and forth in the between the two of them maybe are, but like I feel like when they have a whole team together, kind of shoot like spouting out ideas, which happens like 3 times in this movie.
Yeah,
those are definitely the improv scenes.
But however they got there, I'm glad they did, because this is a very sharp movie. This is a very smart movie. Like this is kind of, and like we were talking about, believe it or not, before era we were talking about Adam Sandler movies. I don't really understand why, but like those are very much like a celebrate the stupid kind of vibe, except for of course Punch Drunk Love and Uncut Gems, both of which are fantastic. But like with Mamet especially, it's like classic Mamet especially, it's like, oh no, we're gonna celebrate being smart people that like are quick-witted and like have like oblique references that don't become Dennis Miller level like horrible.
All right, I'm leading up to something with this. But like the Dustin Hoffman producer scenes are pretty great, where he's pitching out like the movies he used to do, like Moby Dick from the perspective of the whale.
That's so good. Well, and he's basically meant to be Kid Stays in the Picture Robert Evans in this, which like the characters so close to Robert Evans, like it's his own portrayal of it, but it's basically Robert Evans.
Robert Evans said after watching this, he said, "I was great in this. This is the best film I've ever done."
There's a great story about Robert Evans and Wes Craven too, but
It's about time you got some credit, Robert Evans there in this
yeah,
movie.
exactly.
So this is Dustin Hoffman talking about how he actually was a producer on this movie, as was Robert De Niro. They were both like, because Tribeca or whatever produced this movie as like a production company. Like this was originally a Robert De Niro idea, and then they got Barry Levinson, and then Barry Levinson got David Mamet, and it's kind of like a Ponzi or whatever, a pyramid scheme, I guess. In that way.
Ponzi scheme would be a different movie.
Yes. Who are you playing in the film? I swear to God, I keep hearing this, theories of who I'm doing. It's not true. I won't say the names or name. I am not consciously playing anybody. I am really doing what I always do. I have a memory of a few producers. I have a memory of a few directors, and I have a very good memory of my father, and I think that it was a great actor. It may have been Olivier that said, let's face it, we're always doing our family in one variation or another. And there's a lot of my father. My father wore glasses like that. Bob Evans, a producer, wore glasses like that. Lou Wasserman was head of whatever in Hollywood for a while, wore glasses like that. Arnold Copelson, who I worked with twice, producer, wears glasses like that. I think Larry King wears those glasses. So I really was just coming off myself, really trying to do what Barry wanted me to do, basically, and that is to have this nutty kind of optimism, which producers have, because, they're always lying, but they're not. They've convinced themselves they can have a picture that just opened that's a flop, and if you say, how's the picture? It's terrific. There is no pessimism ever apparent, and I played that, really. Very successfully. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. But you don't believe me? You think I'm...
Well, I love little things about how there's no Oscars for producers, right? And that becomes a big.
But there has to be somebody producing the Oscars, which is it is heartbreaking. I've never really thought about that, but there has to be a producer.
Producers who win Emmys.
Well, and that's one of the reasons that makes you understand his character's motivation too, about why it's so important for him to get credit, and ultimately is his downfall, is because he's thinking about he's got a million stories and he tells all of them all the time, always, anyone's listening or not. But it's
just like Andy.
Show.
He's like a very successful Andy.
Yeah. No, hey, I looked at the Brooks shows for a while. I've met a lot of Hollywood producers. And I gotta say,
and he's like, this is nothing. The audio feed cutting out. This is nothing.
It's nothing. But his whole thing about he is a small little moment about how there not being any Oscars for producers. Oh yeah, I guess there isn't. And that is kind of messed up, because when you think about them as the problem solvers of these, and the fact that everyone gets credited but the producer, right? Well, they get the money though. It's the thing. They get the money.
Well, I mean, also I think we've mentioned this before on the show.
Some of them, like Harvey Weinstein, I wish got a little bit less credit. But
I was gonna say I would definitely take less credit for more money easily. But if
I think that there's two different types of producers too. There are those who are just given the title to get extra money.
Yeah, executive producer,
and there's nothing
right?
there's nothing wrong with that too, because sometimes Richard Dean Anderson on Stargate, and I hate to bring up Stargate, but I'm just going to do that because I know the story. But his job was basically just to show up at meetings and on occasion and just be like, yeah, I'm doing the show, and lend his star power to getting getting extra money while the other producers actually did the work. Not to say that that's a bad thing, but it's
which is the role that Robert De Niro played with Tribeca on this. I think. I mean, acting as well, but I think that it was lending his film studio title or whatever.
Yeah, I think I'd say it was the role that Christina plays on this show.
Christina's on.
She's just lending her star power to us. But getting back to the Dustin Hoffman character, I think it's so well played, because it's laid a few times that he's talking about it, and he keeps bringing up these stories because it's he wants to tell these stories, but he's almost kind of oh, check out all the stuff I've done. Yeah, this is nothing. This is nothing. This is check out this other stuff I've done, because he's not a household name in the way that Kubrick would be or something along those lines. And it's weird that he's basically Robert Evans, because Robert Evans is maybe one of the only examples of a star producer that people can really think of. And it's mostly because Kid Stays in the Picture, which brought him to prominence. which is great. And then the subsequent audiobook of The Kid Stays in the Picture, where he just goes off on these crazy tangents, is an incredible listen, by the way. Like he'll just stop reading the book and just tell a story that's not in the book. We're like, what is he doing? Like, what's happening? And it's great. And there's a great Patton Oswalt bit about it as well, where he does a great Robert Evans impression. But the fact that you can do a Robert Evans impression, that's so atypical for producers. And again, what's one of the most famous producers of recent years? Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah. And the thing with Harvey Weinstein is that man is responsible for so many Oscar wins from people who did not deserve them, like Gwyneth Paltrow for like Shakespeare in Love. Like, come on.
And apparently he has a fish-shaped penis.
Yeah,
I wish I put that high on the list of things I
According
wish
to
I did not
Gavin
know.
Newsom's wife.
Yeah, that and what Trump's penis is like are two things I never needed to know. It's like, no, I really did.
I just
No,
don't know
now
what
we know.
anybody's penis is like. Like, you know, keep it in your pants. There's other things.
Well,
I
Harvey
like to know.
Weinstein couldn't. That was his problem.
Well, that's kind of the whole thing, yeah. And yeah, but
he
getting
wanted,
back.
he wanted to show the whole world his Guillermo del Toro movie.
All right. So, but I think that it's the key to understanding Dustin Hoffman's character, right? That like, that's why ultimately he's, you know, because he knows early on, like, you can't tell anyone that you did this. Oh yeah. But like, you know, someday, no days. And like at no point can you ever do this. Like and then like later on, he was like, well, I want the credit. And what is the moment that he like has that crux when he sees that same commercial? Because they've been running these same commercials. We don't change horses midstream, Sally. You know, like where it's the dumbest, most generic political slogan ever. And I love it whenever I see a dumb political slogan. I always go, well, you don't change horses midstream. Because it's so perfectly mediocre for like what is it? What?
I mean, which is that feeling that like nothing was really going on, right? Like nothing's really on the ballot. Like there's no real difference between the candidates. So why change horses midstream? And for them to
that was like the 96 election, like versus Bob Dole. It was so boring. That was like the first election I could vote in, and I didn't.
That was also Abraham Lincoln's campaign slogan during the Civil War.
Right, exactly. But put in a modern context, it's perfectly.
It was new back then. Adorable. It was new back then, like in 1864.
This would have played so well in the 1860s. Let me tell you.
But when you have Stanley Motz's character, like, you know, seeing that and basically like something trips in his brain where he's like, no, these idiots that came up with this horrible slogan are going to get the credit for his re-election. Screw that. I want the credit. Without even like in his conscious brain remembering, oh yeah, my life will literally be in jeopardy if I push this. Because I think he knows.
Fuck my life. I want the credit.
Because the exact quote, because I think on some level he does know, but he just has lived an entire life of accomplishment and like doing like these insane things and has not been given the credit for them. And like, you know, it's sort of like, oh yeah, there he goes. Stanley's telling another story about, you know, like Jaws or Ally McGraw or whatever. Okay. But it's heartbreaking if you think about it, because this is someone who has strived for a life of accomplishment, accomplished things, and then is not given recognition for it. So the fact that like his greatest accomplishment, which he knows from the jump, he cannot in any way, shape, or form tell anyone about, he's willing to like literally like put his life on the line to do it because he wants that credit, which is incredible. It's an incredible character study.
It's funny because a lot of these guys that really do these things, like, you know, they tell about it on their deathbed or like in their memoir or something like decades later. Like you really can wait and eventually one day tell that story. But like the fact that he's so gung-ho about doing it right now because he wants the credit in the moment, and the credit is all like the validation, and the credit is all that will make him psychologically feel good is his undoing.
If credit was what matters, I'll take credit. Quote Rick Froberg. And it's incredible, and it actually hits way different now than when I first saw it, like whatever 20 years ago or something. Like it's sort of like, oh wow, I get it, because remember, this is before, you know, the internet. Like if this had happened in the internet age, you know, like he would have been doing new media and stuff. Like think of like those link letter whatever TED commercials and stuff like that, right? Like he would have, because they actually do bring in like Hollywood directors to like do like campaign commercials and stuff like that now, and like he would have been probably like a major Democratic Party donor, probably like a major like vote blue no matter who guy, you know, like I mean, but that's a different movie because this is like the
who
late
also
90s.
doesn't vote.
Right, who also doesn't vote. Exactly. That's such a thank you for bringing that up, because that's such a key thing where it's like, do you vote? Oh, I'm too busy. You know, like,
The apathy of the 90s. Like there was a political apathy back then. Because I didn't vote in 96 because partly I was in college, like no TV. I didn't know anything that was really going on. I did spend that summer, like during the Democratic National Convention, I was actually going to concerts. Not at all paying attention to what was going on. So I missed the Macarena, is what I'm saying. I did not get to see
my favorite thing about that moment from that Democratic National Convention is that they're doing the Macarena, Hillary's getting down, it's weird, and there's that one guy with like the gay pride flag, and then they pass Defense of Marriage Act like a month later. So I'm like, okay.
Well, that's second term Clinton. That this was election Clinton. This was second election Clinton. He loves the gays. He's got the gay pride flag right there. But then he gets into the second term. No more gays. Nobody can be proud of America anymore. Let me tell you.
I mean, we all remember the Bill Clinton quote: "Love the gays, folks."
By the way, you can really tell that this is a Mamet-written film because William H. Macy's character is a heroic CIA agent. Like that. Like even if that dude's like best, most critical thinking, like inscrutable, like political days, like he always had a hard on for like intelligence agencies and
But I mean, the CIA loses.
But the CIA does lose, exactly. Yeah. And the CIA is not, well, I mean, I guess, are they in the right? Wow. In this case, they may be in the right, but for the wrong reasons. Because the reasons basically you didn't clue us in.
I mean, they're the force trying to pull this unstoppable duo away from the brink, right? Like the actual, formation of a war, which might actually end in some kind of war with Albania, or like at the end, they're still going in there for fucking like another terror.
They start talking about Albanian terrorism and the fact that they basically wagged the dog into like what was fiction is now reality, which has
so less heroic, I think, than the force pulling Robert De Niro and Dustin Hoffman away from the brink. And then lose.
Yeah, definitely.
So we don't have the breaking news thing, do we?
We do, but it flagged last time for copyright.
Oh, come on. Okay, so here we go again. Trump has officially filed his FEC paperwork to run for president in 2024.
Most predictable outcome ever. I mean, like who amongst us?
Did Tulsi Gabbard join Fox News?
Yeah,
yeah, and she's hosting
Tucker Carlson.
She's hosting Tucker Carlson now.
Yeah, of course she is.
But yeah, I have so this is another clip from that documentary where they're talking about making it, and this is about the news and how they feel like the news media and the television generation, I guess, affected their writing.
Which is like that one speech from Network, right? Whatever, we can talk about that for this. So go ahead.
Well, also there's a quote in this where they're like, how do you feel about television? They're like, oh, it ruined the electorate for an entire generation, which is kind of an interesting, like a very self-absorbed,
folks.
A very self-absorbed way of looking at it too, though, because she's like, we want to be able to lie to them without the constant coverage and like, having to run around to all sides of it.
Yeah, again, right, but for the wrong reasons.
I think television's impact on our society has been leveling it to mediocrity, and I mean, through television, we have a generation that's coming into its own now that's almost illiterate.
And that's why I think, cartoonism is really upon us. I mean, I think, I don't mean that you have to just see a cartoon. A lot of movies really are cartoons. They present situations, but they're really cartoon versions of it. And a lot of films that deal with certain kind of issues are sort of really like just basic cartoon, sitcom related in some way, and sort of like, twice removed from reality, as if reality itself is a little too frightening. So you want it to be a little removed, a little kind of fake in a way. So it'll be a little bit more palatable and a little more acceptable.
I said to Elia that because of the impact of television, I really thought that that Eisenhower might be the last bald president that we would ever have. I didn't think that we could have a president who didn't have hair, who wasn't a television personality.
I think that there is a lot of comment about the line between news and entertainment dissolving. But the fact of the matter is, it was always a blurred line. You go back to the early days of newspaper in this century, in this country, Hearst was one of the great showmen of our time. He sold newspapers with a composition of the front page. The problem is that people always want to use just the good gray lady of the New York Times as their standard, when in fact journalism is a much broader spectrum than that. Then you move along. Radio in the earliest days had H.V. Kaltenborn, who had a very dramatic, kind of almost Shakespearean reading style. Lowell Thomas was one of the most popular broadcasters of all time. He was a great showman. So the line was blurred then. The most successful early television evening news program was Huntley and Brinkley. People didn't watch just for the content. They loved the casting. These two people played off each other with a kind of showbiz chemistry. And David made his mark with his wry observations and his twinkly style. So it's always been the case. Edward R. Murrow, one of the founding fathers of television news.
Okay, Tom Brokaw, we get it. You know about television.
The cigarette dramatically lit and off to the side, enveloped in a cloud of smoke. Using language I couldn't use on the air now because I would be accused of being self-important.
Okay. Oh no, being accused of being self-important. Tom Brokaw, no. We wouldn't want that.
That guy? No. No.
I do. I have to say though, I appreciate the way that they were trying to use cartooning earlier in that clip. Because I was actually talking to Harvey J.K. a bit about that this a little bit. Because he used cartoonist, to describe me, and was wondering if that was an insult. I'm like, no, I take it the way Will Eisner means it. But like when he's doing that, he's talking about like the gesture of the figure that he's drawing is over exaggerated, which Norman Rockwell is another great example of cartooning. And what he's trying to describe is a similar concept, but in like the gesture of society in that. And I thought that was really clever. I just don't think he quite articulated it as clearly as he could have. But that was a great clip.
There you go. So Andy's got notes for you.
Yes. Oh,
is he still alive? Yeah, I think he's still alive, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Get our top fact checkers on that.
But I think it's kind of like that line definitely always has been blurred. Like, I mean, the best example comes up in this. Like, remember the Maine? That was, Hearst literally starting a war that wasn't actually happening by pushing the Maine, which they never actually investigated, thoroughly into why the Maine actually exploded. And they think it was an accident, but it launched us into getting involved in the Spanish-American War. And that slogan has stuck for all those, for fucking 2 centuries or a century and a half or something. You know what I mean? Like,
but people only remember the slogan. They don't even remember what it's about at this point, which is a great observation because it's so true.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought it was, I mean, with regards to blurring the line between showbiz and politics, I thought it was kind of, I kind of chuckled to myself a bit when Dustin Hoffman said in that clip we played earlier that he was inspired a little bit. He was naming producers and he mentioned Lew Wasserman. Wasserman's really interesting because he helped kickstart the career of Ronald Reagan in a lot of ways because that's the guy that got Reagan into to be president of the Screen Actors Guild. Dan Moldea wrote a whole book about it, Dark Victory, which is about Reagan, Music Corporation of America, which Wasserman founded, and the mob. So like there's always been showbiz connections to politics in a weird way. So
I mean, Kennedy, Frank Sinatra, and those mob connections, like that's Kennedy's whole thing about like the Camelot thing was that there was celebrities for the first time really like surrounding him in the White House. I mean, not that celebrities were never at the White House, but like not in the way that you're like, oh well, maybe the president's kicking it with Frank Sinatra and fucking not Sammy Davis Jr. because he's black, I guess, and they didn't let him speak.
When it was cool to hang out with celebs, then when the Obamas came into power, Fox News was like, oh hell no, we are not making them Camelot part. We're gonna go with the racism, the Islamophobia, the sexism. The
You know what's funny?
transphobia, Michelle for no reason.
Kennedy didn't let Sammy Davis Jr. speak at the inauguration, not because he was black, but because he had a white wife. Yeah.
Ouch.
Well, even without the mob stuff, it's kind of interesting. Like Reagan's career as a politician, in a weird way, I do think it begins with the Screen Actors Guild. So there's all these weird connections between showbiz and politics, even back then. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and it's, I mean, I think people like examining that relationship, and people kind of like maybe mythologize it for like there being like more of a divide back in the day. But like, no, it's just more apparent now. It's more straightforward, right? And it's like it's fascinating to see this as like a they thought it was the end of a lot of things. Those were great commercials. Those Linklater commercials. I mean,
yeah, no, I remember
them. It's so good. I can't remember the actor's name. The guy, he was in Bernie with. Anyway, whatever. But like, that's like, it was considered like the end of history at the time, right? Because like it was like, well, they didn't understand what the new media was, and at the time, and there was a time period where it was like really overtly democratic to the point that like everyone like had a voice, but not in the way that everyone has a voice and is elevated to a place of importance, whether it's true or not. Now it's like everyone should not have a voice anymore. Like there should be a bunch of people without voices, like and everybody should be
Elon
like,
Musk.
put it yeah, as long as I get to pick who doesn't have them. But people should be put into like a voiceless timeout more often than not, because people react to things rather than thinking about things now.
Meghan McCain is someone that I don't want to have a voice.
Yeah, I could give you a list if you want, but like, remember at the time, this is like late 90s, and we've talked about this on Vice, I think is what we were talking about, of just how infuriating it was that there was not any anti-war voices at all allowed in any major media. And when you think about like what we think of as alternate media now, or like things like Twitter and stuff, none of that existed either. So there was just no way. Like you had to like start a blog, and maybe some people will go.
Democracy Now! Is kind of like one of the few sources that were allowed to even.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, Twitter's
Democracy Now! was and is niche, and I say that as a fan of Democracy Now! Amy Goodman, come on, moving extravaganza. But like, but like the fact that it just wasn't allowed. Like, and then Janine Garofalo ended up being like the voice of like the anti-war movement because she was allowed on, because she was a celebrity and she would talk about it. And it's a fascinating time period because this is like right before all that happened. And one of the reasons why is because there's all this consent being manufactured for the Iraq War and the run up for the Iraq War that like is. The tactics are like in this movie flat out, and it's just like oh, it's less entertaining. It's less funny,
and it was less talent on it because like I'm sorry, that song that what's his name sang, let the eagle soar, sucks. like the songs in here were much better, and I'm not just talking about the Willie Nelson improvs.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of like Keith Urban kind of people that started singing about the Iraq War, and that's definitely not my kind of music. Definitely.
Yeah, what was it? I proudly stand up next to you. It's like legal.
We were forced to sing that song in fourth class.
I think another connection between media and politics is, when presidents started to have to look good, politicians in general had to start to look good on camera rather than kind of, like, because for a long time you maybe saw the president when he was in pictures, you saw him when he was like, he would maybe do like a train whistle stop tour through your town, but you didn't really, the voice had to be good more than the actual politician.
FDR, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was all about the voice there. Yeah. The fireside chats.
So TV stylists had to start, working with presidents and the team, like the makeup team, and it kind of became, politicians in general, it became like a lot more of a collaborative, stylistic effort. And I think a lot of the movies we watched this month have kind of commented on that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Anyone else in this panel want to talk, or just me?
I don't know. It's like that half over here is just really quiet.
I'm trying not to talk too much because I still got a I still have a bit of a cough.
It's almost like this movie kind of feels hyper real now because now it's like, I always like get annoyed whenever I'm watching
Judge Report and Free Republic
convention or like even like watching Republican events. Like I really don't care about like Eva Longoria's hosting this DNC, or like Scott Baio makes an appearance at the RNC. It's like, why do we really care about these celebrities? Like, what?
Katy Perry
like who cares about the political opinion of Kevin Sorbo? I know conservatives that care about Kevin Sorbo's. Why? He's Kevin Sorbo. He hasn't been popular since Hercules.
Well, because I mean,
TV's Hercules. What's he got to say about it?
in terms of conservatives, they've been greased with such grievances about woke Hollywood and like liberal Hollywood that when they find any celebrity willing to take up their cause, there's a lot of them, which makes it kind of funny because more and more celebrities are like, oh no, I'm conservative, and then they make it seem like it's the opinion that like Kid Rock or Kevin Sorbo, like these.
Now they just preemptively announced that they've been canceled when they're agreeing to
Tim
take a
Allen.
paycheck.
But
Tim
Tim
Allen
Allen infuriates me with his whole. I remember when that show came out. What was it like?
Last Man Standing.
Last Man Standing. When that came out, he was saying, "Oh, it's like Nazi Germany. You can't be a conservative in Hollywood." That show lasted like 11 seasons.
Yeah.
Yes.
After he
still works with Disney.
And then there's also like other conservatives in Hollywood who are like Sarah Michelle Gellar, if I remember correctly, is a conservative, but she's not like really politically active. She just votes Republican. It's terrible, but
Yeah, well, and arguably completely lacking any efficacy whatsoever from California, which I believe is where she lives. So
there's
mostly
a whole group.
harmless.
There's a whole group for Hollywood Republicans. It's called the Friends of Abe Society. I think Gary Sinise started it actually.
Yeah, which
and
like Gary.
Have you guys seen Tim Allen's?
Yes.
Oh my God.
For,
the pride of Kalamazoo.
he got arrested for walking through an airport with like a large amount of fucking cocaine on him, like an ounce of cocaine on him or something.
Santa Claus.
With that mustache, he's holding. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's probably how they got him. They were like, nope, that's the guy. That's the mustache.
That dude parties. You can tell.
The judge that gave him like 2 years or something because he snitched on everybody. Tim Allen was an informant and he snitched on all the people that were involved in the drug operation. And they gave him 2 years. And the judge was like, "You're a stand-up comic. I hope you're successful." I'm like, "You motherfucker."
Can I just since this isn't the I don't think we're gonna do an after party tonight, right? But like I just want to bring it back to the movie that I think this is one of the few movies. Jesus. This is one of the few movies that we're covering, one of the last movies that kind of goes out of the way to not mention the parties. What parties the candidate that the president is and like the senator that's like challenging him. It goes out of the way to like not mention that, right?
Which makes it funny to be doing this back to back with Bulworth.
Yes.
And to have done Bob Roberts, Bob Roberts very, very much a party movie, right? Like they're like, oh well, the Democrats have failed and the Republicans are fucking heinous. And then this movie kind of goes to, because it's the 90s, they're kind of eroding that. And then you have Bulworth, which like is a scorching takedown of fucking the Democratic Party.
Absolutely. And the which is one of the reasons why that's an important movie. Although I'll just I don't care if it's true or not. I'll just say that Sorkin wrote all the rapping in that movie. It seemed
I like where he's like, "Let me hear that dirty word, socialism."
Yeah, that's a good. And I can't wait to talk about that on Friday. But I think that it's a bold aesthetic choice, and I understand that's a very '90s choice to like be like, no, we're not going to mention which parties, like the one with the what is it, Campfire Girl? Is that what like the
Firefly?
I thought it was like the Riot Girls for a second.
Great record.
I was very confused.
Kill Rock Stars. The EP is really the best one, but the first record's good too.
Yes.
But it's one of the like it makes a special point not to do that. And the idea is because in the 90s, the idea like, no, this is above politics. This is about power and like machinations like behind the scenes, critical thinking,
which is also funny because American Hero explicitly written about George H.W. Bush and Lee.
Yeah,
Atwater.
it's H.W. And again, as you mentioned in the opening, a dying Lee Atwater, right? But like,
you can't say the N-word anymore. It's the Southern strategy isn't going to work. Let's start a war.
Yeah, exactly. Lee Atwater, most canceled man in America. Well, maybe that's all right. His tactics certainly have been normalized, but the thing that gets me about it is it's the rare time when it actually does work. It actually does kind of think have like a little more timelessness to it, and the fact that again, remember this is before the Clinton scandal, like the one that everyone remembers, but like right before it. So it was sort of like the idea was like, you know, the big thing was keep it in your pants, sure, but you didn't lie us into a war. And that carried through into the next war with the next Bush as well. And that's what MoveOn.org came from. Censure and move on. That's where MoveOn.org came from.
I remember Eric Stoltz. No, not Eric Stoltz. Eric Schwartz is a musician and did this really funny song called "Clinton Got a Blowjob," and the whole thing was like how like all these horrible things that Bush is doing, and but like he can't get impeached.
No one died when Clinton lied.
Yeah, and that was kind of the whole thing. And he's just like, "Listen, George, I'm down here on my knees. I will unzip your pants. I will give you a blowjob if that gets you impeached."
Yes, and that's I realize that's a weird. But I think it's fascinating that I think this is one of the last, like this late '90s era. This is one of the last times that you could actually do that without just feeling like a total cop out.
Yeah, I think because remember in 2000 you had that SNL sketch where nobody could tell the difference between Bush and Gore, so they built a machine where they combined their DNA together and created a new candidate, which was like half Bush, half Gore, and it was a stupid.
All danger.
The sketch is terrible. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna lie. Like, don't watch the sketch. I just told you the best
twirling towards freedom.
The point is like that was very much part of the zeitgeist of that era. That whole thrust of like there really is no difference between the two parties, because at the time there really wasn't.
Well, when is the Kodos and Kodos and whoever the other one was? What year was that? That
comes in.
Yeah, it's at the same time, right? Yeah,
probably around the same time. Yeah.
I love what they're like. What are you going to do? Vote third party and throw your vote away?
I was gonna say too. I mean, just that whole '90s period. It was also harder to get. I think it was harder to make political movies. I remember when I interviewed Eric Hamburg, who he helped produce Oliver Stone's Nixon, as well as the football movie that Oliver Stone did after that one. And what he was telling me is that the studios didn't want to touch Nixon, not because they didn't think like the Nixon story couldn't sell, but they were like, people don't want to hear about these like old white dude politicians. Like people don't want to hear stories about politicians in the background and whatnot and the political machinations. So it was there was sort of the political movies back then were much fewer and farther between, it seems like.
And when they were stylized to a point of like like whatever, like Andy's favorite movie, The American President, stuff like that, where it was like so like kind of like wish fulfillment kind of things like along those lines. And it's amazing because who was the big change to that? Barack Hussein Obama, who was the first like modern like president who was cool, and he was kind of a celebrity, but not like a former celebrity, but like an actual celebrity. And then that of course led to who he's running. Of course he's running. And that's what we're doing now. So the idea of like going back to like how it was in the late '90s, where there was like, oh, nobody wants to hear about that. Like, no, like that's these people have to live in our minds 24/7, 365.
I mean, West Wing.
They don't feel alive.
West Wing started in the late '90s, though. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there was political,
Yeah, but West Wing was liberal wish fulfillment.
I think West
out of
Wing was
power
like
after their
changer.
Gingrich Revolution. After the Gingrich Revolution in '94, people felt very helpless, and they wanted a president that would like fight back, but also like be like a noble man and this and that, et cetera, et cetera. And it started with like decent.
It was also like we want like we want somebody who's not like Clinton, because remember there was
right,
there was a lot of backlash against Clinton at the time too.
By his own vice president, even.
Martin Sheen president would never fucking fuck one of his aides. He's better than that.
I just want to say that's the only. I have to admit I hate The West Wing. I hate that show. Martin Sheen is the only good part of it for me, and that's just because Martin Sheen is
actually a lot of good actors.
Martin
on the
Sheen
show.
used to do like anti-war protests. He went to jail a few times during those anti-war protests that he would do during Vietnam and even the Iraq War. I mean, Martin Sheen's badass, but I've always hated West Wing.
Yeah,
I think Apocalypse Now works as well as it does because he projects so much of his own like hatred for war and for Vietnam into his character.
Yeah.
Like
I like to pretend that Christopher Walken movie Dead Zone is actually a prequel to West Wing, and West Wing's just the fantasy of that he's projecting forward. But he's really just that crazy guy
that makes West Wing
Walken's
so
trying to
much
kill.
better.
Yes, yeah, I just fixed West Wing for you. You're welcome.
So letterbox one-liners.
Absolutely, Forrest. Yes. So of course, Letterboxd is a place for film. It's for film lovers to talk at, with, and to each other about the films they love, the films that they didn't love, the films they're motivated electorally for or against. Bottom up democracy. Everyone gets to have their say, not just the Siskel's and Eberts.
I'm never voting again after watching this.
And of course, this is best expressed working on your tie 5 in front of the brick wall of the Comedy Store in succinct one-liner format. These are the Letterboxd one-liners for Wag the Dog. Babe, wake up. New war soundtrack just dropped.
Well, I mean, we needed one after, the same something is happening in here, like over and over.
We got Prost.
Whoa. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing.
Exactly. I didn't know James Belushi was Albanian. At the time I first watched this movie, I didn't know that either, but it actually is true. Yeah.
I like that they confuse him and John Belushi. They're like John Belushi, Jim Belushi when they're in this. That has to have been improv. I feel like. Like they're like no, he's dead, but Jim Belushi is Albanian. They're like, oh well, we could get him to say something.
Then he gives a whole speech. Pretty good. I want to become the guitar guy. Just do what you love, vibe, get involved in corruption, write songs, and sing with your choir.
Amen.
Yes.
Willie Nelson deserves a better title than just the guitar guy, though.
Yeah. Did you know, like, does this character even ever addressed by name? I can't remember if he is or not.
Yeah, he is.
I know he's credited by a name, but I don't remember him being addressed by it.
No, because when they're playing
the phone call. They had the phone call. Like he's in a pickup truck with a dog and a shotgun.
Yeah.
Well,
do you remember
when he tells him to stop, he tells the choir to stop singing because the war's over, and he's like, "The war's over," and he's telling him, he's yelling his name. I just don't remember what that name is.
Yeah,
I heard it as Willie Nelson. Willie Nelson.
Yeah, hey Willie Nelson, cut the choir off. The war's over. Okay, absolutely.
You know, like a modern version of this, all the celebrities that are in it, like on his team would play themselves. Like they wouldn't.
Oh sure, 100%.
Dennis Leary is the only one that doesn't feel like he has a name that I remember.
It's like Thad Guy or something along
Thad
those lines?
King is his name, and Willie Nelson is Johnny Dean.
Johnny Dean. Okay, so that's there you go. Very forgettable name. I don't feel bad about that. I made Moby Dick from the point of view of the whale.
I would watch that.
I would totally watch that. That sounds awesome. That's a great quote, man. And I love that you get all these little like slices of like his creative life over the years. The Stanley Mott's character, like by him like telling these like little anecdotes.
I like the one he's like, "This is nothing. You've never gone to a pitch meeting coked out to the gills and had to come up with something for a script you haven't read." And I was like, Jesus Christ,
that's so great. 1984 meets Veep. Cool. Tag. But also this felt scarily real at times. Lol.
There's definitely like the aide, character when she's with them. There's definitely a big like Veep feel to that. I feel like she's super self-serious, but like also gets dragged into the comedy of it rather than, kind of as the straight man, because having Robert De Niro and Dustin Hoffman like riffing back and forth is pretty hilarious. One we didn't talk about is the scene where they talk about like giving him the Medal of Honor or whatever, like or no, the Nobel Peace Prize, and then they're like, well, Kissinger got it, and they're like, yeah, but our guy really stopped the war, and he's like, there wasn't a war.
It wasn't a war. Yeah, exactly. It's a great line. Yeah. I feel like Veep pulled some inspiration from this film for sure. Dustin Hoffman's producer character saying, "This is nothing" every time shit got worse, and giving ridiculous examples from his productions might be the single greatest running gag of any movie ever. Testify.
And it gets more ridiculous. Like it still works, but it gets more ridiculous every time he does it. It's like, this is nothing.
Funny, but the scary kind of funny.
Yep.
That's just a statement of fact. That's exactly right. Kirsten Dunst, Albanian queen.
Yes,
Indeed.
queen.
She was.
Yeah, although she did have an Albanian act. She's supposed to be like an immigrant that didn't have an Albanian accent, but also was like, I don't know, there was something.
All she really does is like yell and run though, and that.
Well, no, she asked a bunch of times about like, oh, can I put this on my resume?
Yeah, but I mean like on camera, like as
Yeah.
like you would never know. She's playing a role, right? Yeah. As she, The Kid Stays in the Propaganda by not Robert Evans. Great username too. Myth Addict is that user. So Myth Addict is good. That's good. Let's add Willie Nelson to everything. Yes, I'm in.
Oh yeah.
I agree with that sentiment.
You both cognizantly realize it's Willie Nelson while also kind of getting lost in like the ridiculousness of the movie, so that you're like, yeah, Willie Nelson could be there, like presumably, like
why not?
Well, I spoke enough. Willie Nelson's always here.
Well, he's with you always, just like those Jesus pictures. Those are the Letterboxd one-liners for Wag the Dog. Please follow the show, which is your host, Forrest Clinton Callist Miller over there. Follow the show on Letterboxd. I, of course, am Conan Neutron. I'm all over that business. You can follow me as well. It's a different order. Regular size Christina to the next door to me in these boxes that we are stuck in is on Letterboxd and awaiting her next run of films to log, but she's on there as well.
I need to Don't Worry, Darling.
Good. You should do it. Did you do it already? I know I can look.
No, I haven't done the Letterboxd yet.
Okay.
I've seen it like 3 times though.
Jay 3 times. Wow, impressive. Jay Andrew Shoe World down there is also watching all the weird stuff so that you don't have to, or maybe so that you can. JG Michaels, I always forget. Are you a Letterboxd user?
I need to get on Letterboxd now that it seems that Twitter's going to die.
It's worth it.
It's better than
sure.
Mastodon.
better than that's a low barrier of entry, my dude. And on that note, Jay Andrew Shoe World, please take us away with the plugs.
All right. If you can follow me on Mastodon.
If you know what that is, and if you can find it, and if it works,
Yeah. I think I'm on the party channel. Anyways, you're watching us on YouTube. Do all the YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell so you can be notified when we're putting out new videos, and watch the video to the end to help other movie fans find our content.
Please do all of the things he just said.
Yes. On Twitter, I know it's a dying thing, but it's still worth it going there to see.
It ain't dead yet. Follow us, damn it.
We are going down with you, Elon.
It's like the Monty Python bit with the Black Knight. That's what Twitter is right now.
But yeah, you can follow us over there. We do have a Twitter community, which I forgot to do the poll again this week. Oh, I gotta be better.
Hey,
Sorry, I've been busy. I've been just like swamped. I got
look for that on Truth Social or wherever the hell we are now.
On Mastodon.
You can retruth us.
Yes.
Donald Trump is the best president of all time. Truth Social.
We do have a Patreon. So please support us over there. That helps us. We're going to be creating some more content for you.
Yeah, we're going to be doing an after party with Jason on Friday, I think.
And you can get access to all of our back episode after parties. So which is fantastic.
I love Doja Cat, even though she's problematic.
This is my favorite. Like, he says, I don't want to be Christmas forever. Elon Musk, please help. I've made a mistake. And he goes, you should be able to change your name now. Elon Musk, thank you.
What a time to be alive. / explain that to a founding father.
Conan, you had a Platonic Reversal coming up this week, right?
Yeah, I had so I actually had John Schmerzel from Brainiac on earlier on Sunday. He broke some news that you could listen to the episode on Patreon to find out, and then it goes to general public tomorrow about a new Brainiac. The last demos they did before Timmy.
Yeah, and we're calling it now. If you music publications break that news and don't mention what podcast it got broken on, I will come to your house and I will fucking kill you.
That's awesome. A podcast ain't gonna cut it this time, friends.
Oh no, we're streaming on Twitch for the first time in a while.
Oh, are we? Okay. And then this week I got Paul Rossler from the Screamers, one of the classic LA bands, one of the first I guess you call it synth punk bands. That also brother of Kira Rossler from Black.
I was just gonna say that.
Yep. former guest of this show as well as my show. So action-packed week before I go on tour next week. So fitting them in.
Yeah. And you're going out to California, right? For a couple of shows?
It's the Makeup McCluskey show for Oakland, and then we have a show at Redwood Bar in Los Angeles, which is a week from Friday, and that's with Noi and Mario Lally and the Rubber Snake Charmers, which is Mario Lally is like the godfather of like the desert rock scene, Queens of Stone Age, Desert Sessions, all that stuff. Really interesting dude. Yawning Man was his old band, and we're playing I think it's in Palm Springs as well, and then we're doing the Oakland show. And so just those three are going to be the last three of the year. The Oakland show is the rescheduled McCluskey show from September, right? September, yeah.
Yeah.
And the first time I played Oakland since 2019, so it's gonna be a homecoming show. Yeah.
And if you're not in California and you want to get some Conan music, please go to Conan oh no, I forgot the website. It's Bandcamp. Just look up Conan on Bandcamp.
Just don't. There's a band. First of all, there's a band called Conan, but it's Conan, which is a different band. So don't look up Conan on Bandcamp. Look, it's neutronfriends.bandcamp.com.
Yes. I was about to say that and I completely forgot.
The name of the band is Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. It's on all the rest of the stuff. The Bandcamp, we actually see some of the money for. So if you feel so inclined, I finally put up the tour T-shirts. If you order them, I guess you'll get them after I get back. I don't know. There you go. Look at that.
But yeah, check out his Bandcamp and you know.
Mark's gonna be throwing you a bone and doing visual aids this whole time. That's amazing. The thought never occurred to me.
Yeah, I could actually read it then.
Look, you got them. You got some merch. You know,
Yeah,
I got that shirt. I got the now that's what I call dudes yelling shirt.
Yeah.
Looked sick in person. I saw that in person.
Yep. And we have CDs, records, all that biz. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're playing that show.
Got some dates right here that you can get tickets to.
I keep that Palm Springs show isn't on there, but we're playing Reggie's at the end of the year, which is in Chicago. So I guess it's not technically the last shows of the year because we're playing one right before New Year's Eve. So it's New Year's Eve.
Oh,
New Year's Eve.
The holiday everybody loves.
Yes.
The three faces of Eve. The 3 days of.
Very good. Very
Christmas
good.
Eve, New Year's Eve, and New Year's Eve,
and Halloween,
and Eve Black. Eve Black. Yeah, All Hallows Eve. That's good.
Actually, like Thanksgiving Eve also exists. It's a day where college kids come home to their hometown and go to the bar.
Do laundry.
And
oh,
no.
Well, yeah, laundry too.
Their parents with meal prep.
They're doing the laundry while they go to the bar.
The like New Paltz gets totally packed the night before Thanksgiving because it's just like assholes coming home from police academy, you know, from college to fucking like half of my graduating class got hired by our local police force. They had like a big influx of, so it's always like the worst guys you went to high school with that are like, we're driving around in a cop car over here, and it's like
you should be in jail.
We're driving around in a cop car over here, indeed. And there's a Patreon for Proton Commercial as well. That's the
Yes, I knew I was forgetting something because I wanted to get to Christina and her Twitch channel and her Patreon.
Yes, I'm back on Twitch. Yay!
Did you have any guests or any themes coming up?
Well, Trump's he's talking right now, so guess we're gonna be covering that.
Okay, great. For all that Trump content, please tune in to Cosmopolitics over on Twitch.
Yay.
Oh, now there's an ad on. It was
25 days ago. Oh my god. God, all I've been doing is dog sitting, and it's nice money, but it's not making my Twitch growth happen.
Same, but for free.
So yeah.
And yeah, like I said,
also we're going to be talking about shirtless Andrew Garfield, and that's very important.
Yes, he's in a desert for some reason with all their pants.
Yeah. Oiled up too. Mm.
Christina, you're on for Friday too, right? You're going to talk about Bulworth and
yes.
Warren Beatty saying the N-word.
Oh boy.
Amazing. Truly amazing delivery.
Incredible moment in
Honestly,
cinema.
yeah.
Can't wait to cover it. Yeah. It's a bold statement.
I was watching the whole movie like this. Like, watching him fucking dance and thing. I was like, oh, okay. Damn. Warren Beatty's got moves.
Oh shoot, what else?
I was going to say, JG, you have a great show called Parallax Views.
Yep, Parallax Views, parallaxviews.podbean.com, and also my Patreon, patreon.com/Parallax Views. I'm on Twitter @ViewsParallax. And just to plug a few of the shows that are coming up, in honor of the World Cup in Qatar, I'm having on James Dorsey, professor and author of The Turbulent World of Middle East Soccer, which examines the sort of cross-section between politics and soccer in the Middle East. And also Miles Coleman, the filmmaker behind the hit new Netflix documentary series FIFA Uncovered, which is about corruption in the FIFA soccer leagues. So I have that coming up. I have Natasha Lance Rogoff, who has a very interesting story about producing the Russian version of Sesame Street in post-Cold War Russia. She has a new book out called Muppets in Moscow. And I also have David H. Price, who has a really interesting new book I would recommend to people listening to this show called The American Surveillance State, How the U.S. Spies on Dissent. And he has all kinds of wild documents about how the FBI was surveilling everyone from Edward Said to progressive American factory owners to Native American communists. So I have a bunch of crazy shows coming up with people that I think are really knowledgeable about different subjects.
Muppets in Moscow sounds like the that's the final Muppets movie they don't come back from.
Yeah, it's like Police Academy 6.
Last thing I want to interject, because it's time sensitive and it might be over by Friday, but there's a petition they've called for using ResistBot for folks that have Democratic Congress people to ask for a clean slate for Democratic leadership, meaning that the 3 80-year-olds in the top 3 positions in the Democratic Party are being asked to stand aside and allow people from maybe another generation. I don't know, just throwing it out there.
Clyburn.
Including Clyburn, number 3.
Nancy Spinosi,
And there's you can use ResistBot. You can just text resist, and you can send a physical letter to your House representative, not for the Senate, for the House leadership, because whether it's
Clyburn, get the
Conan,
fuck out of here.
Conan, are you saying it's time to force the vote?
Yeah, the vote's coming no matter what. But the thing is that like people don't realize is this happens like right after the election, aka when there will be no grassroots pressure whatsoever, which is all the more reason why you should do it. So that what I threw in the chat is the petition, which is what my letter is now turned into. You can sign on to that, but you can also send your own letter to your Democratic representative and say you don't need to say who it needs to be. You just say new leadership.
And one of the things I said is now's a good time to do it while these people are still in office, because that's the way you can transition power to the new ones. I think that's a nice way of putting it. Even though I think those 3 are terrible, but that's
you don't need to put in your letter. Exactly.
You don't need to say that.
I sent my ResistBot thing to Pat Ryan, veteran for Congress, because he is now officially
his whole thing, right?
Yeah.
You don't change horses midstream.
You don't change wars mid election.
He's a veteran of the Albanian War. Actually, it's crazy.
Wow. Well, I mean, he's not that far from Albany, so that's not a surprise.
That's good.
Well, the whole thing is the Albanian
that kills in the New York State House, by the way.
the Albanian
well,
War,
the Albanians are.
They were trying to capture the egg, and then it would have all been over. If they had surrounded the egg and actually gotten a hold of it, we could have taken Albania.
Have you ever actually been to the egg?
I have been to the egg, yeah.
Because there's like a couple different places there, and I saw Eddie from Ohio at one of the smaller rooms, and the acoustics were amazing. They actually
an egg, so it would seem like the acoustics would be pretty great.
Yeah, no, I just wanted, and then
were they acoustics?
Yes.
I was like, that's too dumb. I'm not gonna say
I was
to be fair, it was dumb. Yeah, you're right.
I was telling some friends about it, and so we went to go see They Might Be Giants there, but it was at the big theater room, and the acoustics are fine. Like it's nothing special. So it was just like I was a little disappointed. Like, yeah, me too. I was hoping it was going to be in the smaller room.
If you're chilling high at the egg, you're over easy. You know what I mean? That was way dumber.
Where are my edibles? Oh, hey there.
All right. So that is that is our plugs. It's time for the finalists of final thoughts. JG, final thoughts, wag the dog, dog the wag, whatever we're doing.
The
here.
dog wag.
Like I said, it's a great dark comedy, political satire, and watch it on double feature within the loop. That's my view of it.
All right. Nice, short, compact,
Very
sweet.
succinct. Yeah.
Yeah. Christina, I know you want to get out of here to talk about Trump Donald. So final thoughts.
I saw this movie at first when I was in high school, recommended by my teacher, and I thought like it was a little too on the nose, but I absolutely loved it. And rewatching it again 10 years later, I'm like, still way too on the nose, and a lot has happened. The dynamic between Dustin Hoffman and Robert De Niro is fabulous, especially between their egos don't really overshadow like the movie itself. Like it's just enough ego to make this a very successful political dark comedy satire. And the cameos are phenomenal. The writing is just hilarious. And I highly recommend this when it comes to like watching like political films.
Okay. Drinking 9-inch ales over there.
Yeah. Here we go. Somebody finally noticed.
I noticed. I just chose not to say anything.
Okay.
Well done.
Okay.
That was something that happened in the chat while JG was attempting to make a very serious point.
Yeah, which is why I didn't say anything. So, but anyways, no, this is a wonderful film. I did purposely avoid it because when it came out, I was not interested in seeing it. And I'm kind of glad that I didn't see it until until today, because I would have been insufferable about this movie. And I think we could all appreciate me not being insufferable about something. So I think it would have made Bush much worse for me. So I'm kind of glad I could feign disignorance until now. But it is a movie that's worth watching because of the fact that the cast is just so tight in this. And even like Dennis Leary can't even, hold on. I know the last movie I watched, it also seemed like he was the only person nodded on the joke, which is weird because he's the comedian. But
is it weird though? Because I feel like he's very often the person that's nodded on the joke.
Yeah. Although he had that weird show about music that was just like him being
sex, drugs, and rock and roll. He didn't really seem that much on the joke with that one either.
It was just him like,
this is classic after party material.
Yeah.
We're not doing an after party, but don't get me started. Is all I'll say about that.
But anyways, just phenomenal. Like everything, it's everything that people say that The West Wing is, but actually like in something that's not by Sorkin at all.
All right. Not to change horses midstream. Conan, let's hear those final thoughts.
Prophetic, literally, darkly hilarious, well scripted, well acted, well directed. As JG pointed out, everyone from the 90s is apparently in this movie. This is probably one of the more effective movies we picked for election night extravaganza for what it is, which is one of the best satires, and a very different kind of satire than the last movie we did, which is Bob Roberts, which is hard to pull off. This is smart movie for smart people. I always appreciate that. And I think it is really cool that you can get new things out of it, like Dustin Hoffman's character's arc and why he maybe like would want the credit, things along those lines. Really, strangely, like there hasn't been a resurgence for this movie. Like I feel like there's certain movies like Election, I feel like has kind of found its audience now. Maybe it's because it's Barry Levinson and people kind of like very much have him of a time. I think that this movie is wild underrated, actually, and probably something that I wish more people would check out, because as mentioned earlier, a lot of it still holds true. It's a little too on the nose, and that's kind of what makes it deeply funny. People still do it all the time. But it's also an artifact of the Clinton era too, which is interesting because it is a complete time capsule, but it's also still works.
All right. Well, we will be back on Friday with Jason Miles. Excited for that. I don't think he's come on since like episode 3, although we've hung out with him on stream and stuff, and I've hung out with him in person.
Yeah, we did like 12 episodes on his show, but
yeah. You know, what I would say is my final thoughts is fuck my life. Fuck my life. I want the credit.